Take a deep breath. This is the pre-show.
That's right.
Get our little wheeze out. That sounded bad. Hold on. I totally meant like the Nintendo wheeze. Refresh.
Reset.
We'll edit that out.
No.
My Lanta.
Yeah, dude. I thought I was going to have to change the starter on my Jeep in the Walmart parking lot yesterday.
Turns out I just have to change the entire front end.
And the back end. Yeah, so right before... it's kind of been acting up the last couple of days, but of course it's going to completely fail when it's raining outside.
Of course.
And so yesterday I'm on my way to Walmart, coming home from a basketball game, get rear-ended, pull into the parking lot, exchange all our information, go in and get the stuff I was going in there for, and then come out and it won't start. So had to go back in, buy a hammer. I'm laying down underneath the Jeep because I took all the tools out of my Jeep just a few days ago as I was cleaning it out, and I hadn't put them all back in yet.
Of course.
So it's pouring rain. Thankfully I have a rain suit. I'm laying underneath there in the middle of the parking lot, banging on the starter, just praying it'll start so I can get home. It did. So I get to leave the podcast and go change a starter in the rain in the driveway. So that'll be fun.
Garage ain't clear, huh?
No. So my garage isn't clear because we took all of the carpet out of the house on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday I broke my foot. And my flooring was delivered. I had it all set to do over the Christmas break, and then broke my foot, couldn't do anything. The flooring gets delivered. It's in the garage, and...
You're going to install it yourself?
I was. Now I don't have time to because I don't have the time off.
Right.
So, Bryce Ballard, man. Bryce, haven't seen you in a while.
And you've got to be jealous. I had the best hug from Bryce at CYM. I got to see him.
In CYM. I am jealous. In fact, we'll see how this little brain trust session rolls on here. Without that one missing component that is always like throws in that crazy idea that all of us should have thought of, but nobody was.
We can call the other two guys from the first brain trust.
The other two?
Neil and Joseph. That's like OG. That was so long ago.
Yeah, I feel like Bryce was our first real brain trust, though.
You think?
I think so.
I think so. We also used to have Terry on the brain trust. Remember that?
That is true.
And then after Josh abandoned us, we had, like how I said that, Jonathan Reynolds was on there 1 year. He's now a full-time family marriage counselor.
Really?
Yeah.
He was at Riverside, right?
Yeah.
In Wichita?
Wichita. I know, this is really vibing.
I know. I keep thinking we're gonna have to go to something else when winter is no longer. We can't have snow hanging around.
But I'm gonna save this because I'm totally gonna use it later. Ooh, Isaac, watch it from Africa. I don't know what time it is in Africa.
I'll say it's late or early. I'm not sure which.
I'm excited. I'm really excited about today's episode.
I am too.
And Josh would know from my notes that I sent him. He was a little overwhelmed. He was like, "Oh, maybe I should put some more notes together."
But no, I had the notes. I just didn't have them organized.
Well,
I'm
to be
organizing my
fair,
mind.
I was watching the movie. I watched the movie last night to take notes
I see.
because I had watched the movie, but I wanted some more specific quotes from the movie.
I got you.
Is what
Specific quotes are good. Dad remembered.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards. And here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back and try to reveal the things that you need to know about what's going on in the lives of your ministers, ministry leaders. I'm Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my beautifully bearded brother, needs a little trim right now, but
it does.
Aaron Partlow, man, youth minister in Longview, Texas. It's good to see you, man. I know you guys have been going through quite a bit in your household. Everything going all right with you guys?
We are on the upswing from our second round of COVID. We're I think tomorrow is our free day. We're free at last. So I will be able to go into the office and get some work done, which is really sad. I told Lauren, I said, it's not necessarily that I want to go into the office. It's that you painted my office and we rearranged and moved everything. And then I haven't been able to have any office hours because we went to Winterfest and now we have COVID.
Haven't been able to
So
enjoy
it's
it.
I want to go enjoy my office. We moved my desk. We painted it a nice color in there. It's all clean and crisp. And it's man, I want to go in there and be creative, but I just haven't been able to have any office hours. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get in there.
Well, we were talking before, I like working from home sometimes, but sometimes I also just need that environment of being in the office. It's just a different vibe, if you will.
Yeah, I
Get
really
more
like
things
working.
accomplished.
I really like working in multiple places and having the freedom to be able to go and work in multiple places. Sometimes I need to go work in a coffee shop for an hour or two. Sometimes I need to work in my office. Sometimes I need to work at home. So it just kind of depends. And I think that's one of the biggest blessings of being in full-time ministry is having the freedom to be able to go and work where I need to and that kind of stuff. So, hey, but we've got an exciting show today. We are bringing to you a live Brain Trust episode. Can you hear Sam?
I can't hear Sam. That's okay.
Awesome. That's good. That's fine. He's having fun. He got a new toy for using the potty. He's done it now 15 times where he's told us and he's gone and used it. So he's been really excited. Mr. Allen's here too. Anyway, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to do a Brain Trust live, which, if you're wondering what that is a thing that Josh and Bryce Ballard and I up in Kansas, we'd get together and we'd start playing in church camp, how we were going to do it, what we wanted to do. But we would come and we would just consider ourselves a brain trust, and we just lay it all out at the table, no dumb ideas, no nothing. And we would just kind of brainstorm, but put our brains together. And so recently, you guys may have known that Disney put out the movie Encanto, and it is fantastic. It is a really great movie, and I could not help but watch it and just start making all of these spiritual ties. And so I told Josh, I was like, man, you've got to watch it. You've got to see it. You got to watch it with church camp in mind. And so he did. And so now that's where we're at. We're doing an episode. I've also seen it 6 times now. So I've kind of really been the dad. Sam loves it. So we watch it all the time. So, and that's okay because I like it too.
It's catchy, right? I mean, and that's kind of one of the things is,
yeah,
I watch everything. I don't care if it's TV shows, series, movies, even Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
My family has this thing, if we're watching something, they will always turn and look at me and say, "Is that the one?" And what they mean is that the part of this movie or this show that you're going to use in your song?
That'll be in your sermon. Nice.
Yeah. So that's just kind of always in my
That's good.
mind. And it's kind of funny that they've kind of picked up on that. And they start trying to choose that as well.
Well,
And-
I think you said something really good at the start. Well, you've said something good the entire time.
Okay.
But you said, it's good. It's really catchy. And
Right.
I would say, like, whenever I'm thinking about church camp, I'm thinking about, like, what's hot? What's catchy? What's something that people are going to make those references to immediately, kind of a thing. And, it's hard to do that and be, like, uber relevant because you're not going to play in your church camp the week before church camp,
Right.
But I would say that's like the first thing that I try to think of is, hey, what's really hot, what's really catchy, and does it have spiritual implications? Oh, it just turns out that this has both, and they're both extremely relevant and good.
Yeah, and you have sometimes, like with any movie or any series or anything you do, even in the middle of culture, you can always find one or two things that come out and give us something that we can kind of latch onto and use as a teaching moment.
Yes.
Every once in a while,
Absolutely.
you have these things that come along. I mean, In and Out was one of them. They always seem to be, a lot of them seem to be animated.
Inside Out.
Yes, In and Out's a burger joint.
Yeah,
Inside
I was
Out,
like, when did we do a burger themed camp?
No.
That sounds great.
Inside Out with the emotions. And After Earth was one, with Will Smith and his son that had a lot of spiritual implications, and it wasn't animated. But Soul, is another one. And then Encanto comes out, and it's like, dude, there is so much here. Like at every turn, there's something that's just kind of hitting you in the face with things that you can really teach a spiritual lesson from.
Sure.
And it has the songs, the animation, all the things that kind of go with it that continue to capture your attention. So
my hope for this brain trust when we talk about going through Encanto, and by the way, if you've never done a brain trust, if you are new to working with other youth ministers and you're planning an event, I would say my biggest hope is when I meet and I do something with other youth ministers is that we all have completely different ideas. If we're like, hey, let's look at this and let's plan a church camp out of it, and I'm like, hey, what do you see as the theme of the movie? What would you form a camp around? I would hope that, like, I would go, hey, I connect this with this passage, and Josh would be like, oh, that's cool. I never thought about that. I connect it with this passage. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really good. I never thought about that. So that's kind of how we started. So what I think about, like, what's the theme of the movie and what would you form a camp around? For me, immediately, I think of, there's a couple things that I think of. And I'm going to go into them in our next little segment here. But my overarching theme, I would talk about the passage where Paul is talking about the body and how we're all different members. We're all important in different ways, but we all, and I would talk about spiritual gifts a little bit, would be an emphasis. But my high point would be talking about, how do we come under one roof and work as one family being so different, and I would talk about church unity and a whole, and then that would be my overarching theme, and then my daily themes would be ways that can get broken down. What are some things that get in the way? Because as you see the house cracking and destroying, that's being cracked and destroyed by selfish intentions, and I think I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. So I'm thinking of movie clips and things like that are going along. What about you? Do you see the same thing, or do you see something else?
yeah, no, I see that. I see a theme of forgiveness and restoration in the movie. That whether it's misconceptions or irresponsible usage of what they have, there's this rift that runs through the family.
Yeah.
And so, the whole thing is coming about to, restoring those relationships that have had this rift in them. And if you want to think of something spiritually minded outside of the movie, you see all of these gifts and abilities that these people have, understanding that the gift you've been given is neutral.
Yeah.
What you do with it, is what makes it's kind of what defines whether that is positive or negative. I can use it on something that is a little more self-focused, or I can use my gifts and abilities on something that's more kingdom focused,
Right.
and how those different things impact both the community and my own health and well-being. So those are kind of the themes that come around. And I love the idea. We talked about un techo, one roof.
Yes.
As
Yeah,
being
that's
that
what I
theme.
would. That's what I would call it. That's what I would call. I would use a Spanish words to be the title of my church camp for the week, just because it's based off of Encanto, and so keeping with that flair and that style.
Yeah, and so you can you have the forgiveness, the restoration, the unity,
Mm-hmm.
the gifts that we've all been given, all kind of coming into that. It's a I think it captures all of those kind of attitudes. So
Right. So I love the opening first scene. So by the way, if you haven't seen this and you don't want to be spoiled, now would be a good time to drop out of the podcast, wait, go watch the movie, and come back, because I'm going to spoil the crud out of this movie for you. But
spoiler alert.
The spoiler alert. So the opening scene, if I'm thinking about, minor themes throughout the week, or minor lessons that I might be teaching, not the overarching. My overarching would be focused on one roof and coming under one roof. But I always feel like it's really awkward if you don't talk about Jesus at least one day of the week, like specifically just about Jesus. And man, so you have the grandmother who's got the 3 children, and she's got the candle, and they're running away from the conquistadors who are coming to kill them. They're probably not conquistadors, but anyway, coming from the bandits or whatever, the banditos, who are coming. And you have the father, the grandfather, who gives his life so that the grandmother and the children can go and enter into this new casa, this new house, right? And so it's like this really cool. And as soon as I saw that, I went, man, isn't that that's like your Jesus moment right there? Is that you have, in order for us to enter into the house of God and to be with God, Jesus had to give his life. And Jesus is that magic that fuels us to be closer and to be with God. And so that's something that I immediately saw. I think it's a very vivid image. I think you can take the end of the movie as well, when there's that imagery that's there as well, but you also have it at the beginning, and it's told in 2 different ways, but it's still a very passionate, it's very strong emotion that, the grandfather. And I even love the scene where the grandfather, he kisses his wife on the forehead before he turns and he goes. And then you see the grandmother mourn his death, but then you see her stand up and carry and walk towards God. And there's a lot there that I could pause and rewind and kind of look at.
One of the things that really stood out, as far as the movie goes, was who's the antagonist? Who's the villain of this movie?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, who's the villain of the movie?
The villain of the movie? Okay, well, I would say Pride. Pride is the villain of the movie.
Pride isn't a player. It's non-traditional. Not in the movie. It's not. It's an emotion, but it's not a character.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So it's very non-traditional.
It's very non-traditional.
Who's the protagonist? You want to say it's Mirabelle because she's the central character, but is Bruno the protagonist or the antagonist? Mm-hmm. He's kind of seen in different lights depending on the area of the movie, but that's really what this is all about. And so,
yeah, that's true.
The non-traditional view of who's for me and who's against me. You want to say, Alma, the abuela, is the antagonist because she's the one that has kind of created this rift in the family, but she's also the reason the family is there. And so when you talk about life, we have this idea that evil is going to rear its head and it's going to be very obvious. But sometimes, the way Satan works in our lives is it comes up even from our own selves
That's so good, Josh.
and from the people that are around us. It's not this obvious evil. You don't have a Maleficent, you
Yeah.
don't have an evil queen. You don't have these obviously evil characters. You just have people who are working, and because they have misunderstood what they've been given, there's this evil that kind of exists, and it almost comes from within. So
You blew my mind there because, and so often, like, especially like in church politics and stuff like that, like, we try to find, like, okay, so who's the bad guy? All right, well, if we get the bad guy out, then we're good. But what did we do? Well, we just lowered our numbers. Oh, who's the next bad guy? All right, let's get them out. But in Encanto, it's not about finding the bad guy and getting rid of them. It's about coming together and restoring and fixing what's causing the house to fall apart. That just blew my mind. Like, that is so good. That's such a deep and overarching lesson right there.
it's the power of the brain trust, man.
That's power of the brain trust. It's so good.
Well, the other thing that kind of I got thinking about the gifts, and the different ways, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but just a few that kind of stood out. The abuela, Alma, she gets so fixated on preserving the legacy of the candle, right? The legacy of the family, that she stops seeing anything else. Like, she doesn't even see the cracks in her own house, and she doesn't see the way what she is doing is actually hurting the people around her.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's not forward looking. She's got this beautiful gift of this family. But in trying to preserve what she once had, she's kind of messing
She's
up what's coming in the future.
we used to do this. I'm afraid to do anything new because we used to do this.
Right.
We used to have a VBS that was super vibrant, but I don't want to change it to go with what works for parents today, because that's not how we used to do it. Yeah, wow, that's really good.
And then you have Dolores's gift where she can like hear everything, but because she's so focused on everyone else that she forgets. She doesn't even know how to look inside of herself to know what she needs and what she desires, because she becomes so focused on everything else that she's hearing. I'll come back to Bruno in just a second. Isabella, when she accidentally conjures that cactus and she realizes she doesn't have to be perfect to produce something beautiful, because she'd been so focused on the perfection of what she creates. That really stood out to me in that moment where she realized, our definition of beauty may be off, because this cactus comes about and it's like, oh.
So my thoughts on her is that she's so focused on being perfect, that and for us, like, we can get so focused on being perfect that we forget about the true magic, which her true magic isn't to create flowers. Her true magic is to grow vegetation. She's just only used it for flowers because she's so focused on perfection. And so we get so focused on, I have to be like Jesus. I have to be perfect. I can't mess up. And if anybody sees that I messed up, then it goes wrong. That we forget about the true magic of what saved us, which is grace and mercy of Jesus Christ, of God on the cross. And so that's my connection there is like, we get so focused on that. And so when she lets go and she realizes, that, hey, I have grace and I have mercy in my life, and so I'm so much more free. I'm not confined by the law. I'm still going to try to be like Jesus. Yeah, but I'm free of that weight. And we forget that. Like, and I'm sure as a child she, grew everything, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, no, perfect. You gotta do a flower, kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Luisa is one of the ones that I really connected with most. Luisa and Bruno. Luisa has the gift of strength, and she never gets tired physically from doing the work. Right? I mean, her gift is constant, insatiable strength. But she has these expectations, and it wasn't really clear to me if those expectations came from the people or if they came from herself. but you see her just mentally and emotionally tired from carrying these expectations, even though she was physically doing it. And she was always afraid that she wasn't strong enough. And so, I kind of watched that character and I was like, oh man, like I feel that like at my core at times, and
Yeah.
always afraid that I'm not strong enough. And then Bruno with a gift of honesty that just,
Oh, we gotta go back to Louisa. Can't go that fast. Like
we
she's
will.
got this whole.
I'm
She's
just
got
telling you what
this
stood out to
whole.
me, and then you can react. But go ahead, talk about Louisa.
Well, I was gonna say like she's got this whole like her worth is found in how much that she's doing each day.
Right,
Right?
right.
Like that's where she finds her worth. And so I think of Matthew chapter 5, I think of the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus tells us, in the first 5, Beatitudes, where our worth is really found. And so, she finds her worth in what she's doing, but our strength is found in our weaknesses. So, all right, go on to Bruno.
No.
You tell me.
No, of course, Bruno he has the honesty, he has the gift of the prophetic vision, and like man, sometimes we don't want to know what lies in our future, and so what do I do in that moment? Do I tell the people what is going to keep them, content and happy and present, or am I going to speak the truth? And be honest with people, whether it's in my preaching or my teaching or even in our conversation, knowing that telling someone the truth and that raw honesty is going to cost me followers, friends, maybe even family at times. But do I have the ability and the courage to speak that truth,
Yeah.
even knowing what it might cost? And what he has to say isn't pleasant. And it cost Bruno his family. But he continues to not only love his family, but continues to tell the truth about what's been revealed. So that weight, I felt that. So those are the things that kind of really stood out and really grabbed me when I first watched it.
That's awesome. That's great.
Any other things from the movie that kind of stuck out to you that?
I love the donkeys. Are super great. No, I'm just kidding. I do love the donkeys. I think something that sticks out to me is, is with Maribel. I see this like she's constantly worried about others and serving others, and instead of taking time to focus a little bit on herself, and seeing that. So I kind of did this a little bit differently. When I went through it, I kind of went through some characters, but I also went through the songs because I connect a lot with music.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
The songs are huge for me. So the first song, she's talking about all the spirit or all the magical gifts that her family has, and so for me, like I hear that and I see the little bit of sadness. I see a lot of the hey, I'm focusing and looking at others and what they can do. And so I look at that and I go, hey, we all have spiritual gifts, but sometimes we don't know what they are. We don't know what our spiritual gift is because my gift doesn't look like Josh's gift, and I know that. And after working with Josh for many years, I know that we are very different when it comes to our spiritual gifts. Sometimes we sit in the church and we can compare ourselves to each other. It's really easy to compare gifts. Well, what's your gift? Well, what's your gift? Well, what's your gift? And so the kids keep asking her, what is your gift? Because it's not something that is profound or amazing, like talking to animals or growing flowers or being extra strong or healing people with food. There's so much in
healing
this movie
people with food.
You can, right? There's so much that you can pick apart in this movie for it. And so the focus, and then there's this focus, which I really loved in the first song, is about earning your gift instead of receiving your gift. The abuela makes this comment about earning your gift rather than receiving your gift. And so that's kind of like our first encounter with the grandmother. We see this pride that's coming out. And being proud of your... being proud is good, but you see this overarching pride. And so she says this to her granddaughter right at the beginning. She says, the best thing we can do to help others is to step aside. And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that, that's a lot of truth to Maribella. Hey, you need to step aside and let some other people do some stuff. But it's also like a truth because she should be saying it to a mirror, to herself, and allow others to kind of jump in there. And so I thought about, like, do we allow our own pride to get in our way of serving? We've talked about that a little bit here on the podcast about being a ministry leader and doing everything yourself. And so, the grandmother's pride has caused others not to serve in their best way. It also makes me kind of think about, some other things, but stuff that I wouldn't bring in maybe into church camp. So maybe I won't say that here. We can talk about that later. I love this. So in the start of the movie, when the cracks start first happening, this is what I noticed about the grandma. When the house starts to break, she ignores that there's a problem, and the first thing that she does is go out into the public and say, "The magic is strong. We are good." And it's okay for us to acknowledge that our church isn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Christ is perfect. Jesus is perfect. The church is full of people trying to be like Christ, and so there's going to be some cracks, and it's going to be kind of broken.
Yeah, and Bryce is talking about Bruno, being content to just live in the walls of the house. Mm. He's not a part of the family, but he's working to make sure that nobody notices the cracks, or he's patching all the cracks. And so trying to keep things perfect, at least on the outside. And even though he wants to be part of the family, he's kind of just content to play that role. And so it's good stuff.
Yeah. And so then, so she's got this. What I love about it, too, is that you see that the grandmother has this huge secret pain, pain that's in her life. The loss of her husband, that she's so afraid to lose this gift that she has. And so she's got this. I see that. If I was teaching a class, I would say, sometimes we have like this really big secret sin that's in our lives, and that we're afraid to kind of give up. We're also afraid for people to even see it. And if it wasn't for her granddaughter, who was self-sacrificial, who was so willing to really put her relationship, her friendship on the line with her abuela, that she's able to kind of see that this is something that has seeped into her life and has really affected other ways, other parts of her life, which was so amazing what you said at the beginning, because the grandma's not a bad guy. She's just somebody who's gotten caught up or lost in the way. And I think that's, for me, that's really relevant for teens. I think you can close your eyes and all of a sudden wake up and you find yourself deeper into this sin or deeper into this lifestyle that you ever thought you were going to be. And man, we all wish that we had a friend who would point that out to us and pull that out. And it's not easy and it's hard, right? Let's see. When we talked about Luisa, I think we hit all the points that I kind of thought too. Like, I can't listen to that song and not feel for our teenagers right now. They have sports, they have school, they have work, they have extracurriculars, and then there's church sprinkled in there too. And all of us are fighting for their attention, for what's important. And I think parents are lost and confused at what's really important. I think there's a lot of really good books out there that kind of hit on this point of, hey, church is good, but is it the best thing for my kids? It is, because it helps, send them to heaven, and those should be the most important things, is our relationship with Christ. But a lot of times we go, yeah, but basketball might get them, a scholarship,
Yeah.
Doing
But why they're struggling?
Classes will get them into college.
But you know why they're struggling with those things?
Tell me.
Because we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. That's
because
right.
we don't talk about Bruno, right? Bruno gives us the things that we just can't swallow. He gives us the things we don't want to hear.
That's right.
He gives us those things that require us to change and be differently focused, and we don't talk about that.
That's right. I love that, because in that song, we don't talk about Bruno. It goes into He told me that my fish would die and the next day, dead. He told me that I was going to have a gut. Now look at me now. He told me I was going to go bald and look at my hair and it's gone. And there's 3 instances right there where Bruno warns them and tells them you need to change your ways because something bad is going to happen. But it's Bruno's fault instead of owning up to their own faults of not changing their actions, right?
Yeah.
So when I like have that Bruno song, that's a lot of the stuff that I hear or that I see in Bruno. Is I see a guy who has been beaten. I see a minister who's no longer in ministry because he has told people the truth and what Jesus has called him to say.
And they just stuck him in the walls.
and people are like, it's your fault. It's your fault, instead of saying, man, no, we should have listened to you. We should have seen the writing on the wall and all that kind of stuff. It's powerful. Like Bruno is like all our heroes. And I also love how now, like, you can go anywhere and somebody will say, oh, well, we don't talk about Bruno. And you're like, oh, man. Like, that's crazy that a lot of people, like, use that now.
So let's talk about, like, how we move this into, like, camp, start building a framework.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we may be here till noon because we can go through all these things.
That's true.
When it comes to, like, I'll give you some... like class topics kind of thing that kind of just came to my mind of what can we start building a curriculum around, do you know yourself?
Yeah.
How well do you know yourself? How do you get to know yourself? Managing expectations, honesty. How do we handle being honest with one another? How do we handle when people are honest with us? Mm-hmm. Unselfishness and sacrifice. Like that's kind of one of the things that you see through here is how we struggle with knowing who we are, what we need, what we desire.
Yeah.
That unselfishness doesn't mean that we completely abandon everything about who God has gifted us to be. And then understanding that what we do affects the people around us. It doesn't just affect, it has a broad sweeping impact. But those are a few of the class topics that kind of came to my mind when it came to how would we start kind of teaching some of these things.
And I'll overlap with you. I think my goal for the camp would be this idea of like coming together as one church. And what are those things that really divide us? And so all week I would make it an essential part of making a joke out of the idea of, well, we don't talk about Bruno, but we're going to talk about him here. I would use that. I would have that one clip of the movie where the cousin says, so we're going to talk about Bruno now?
Right.
I would have that, and I would play it every time I'm about to start a class. I would say, we got to talk about Bruno now? And then we would talk about Bruno. And so, my Brunos, my classes would be, I would talk about pride. I would talk about how pride can get in the way of other people serving around us. I would talk about not giving it up to God, not using God. And I would think about Matthew. I would think about the Beatitudes. So I would focus on Louise one day, and I would talk about those kind of things. I would talk about, I might actually do, if I were to do this, I would almost do a spiritual gifts day. And maybe I would do that at the start of the week. There's some tests and some other things that people have done to kind of help teenagers or to help people kind of, find or realize what their spiritual gift is. And I might do that as one day, as like the first day to kind of maybe start the week of camp. So talk about the church as a whole and then do spiritual gifts. And then I would talk about Bruno. And I would talk about pride. I would talk about spiritual pressures and other things like that. And then I would go into maybe some other stuff. But there's at least 4 days right there off the top that I would really focus on that I think to me are very prominent, are very easy to kind of pull into. I think the other ones you have to do a little bit of work, but not a whole lot. But at least just a little bit there. But
yeah,
for me personally, if I was doing this as a camp, I would make it. I would find a way to be able to have movie clips throughout the entire week, because I think that visualization would be really big.
Yeah, and I would I don't know who you normally use, but I use like wing clips. Is really it's an inexpensive way to here's the important thing. All right, we're talking to youth ministers and church people and sometimes volunteers.
Yeah.
Don't just take your DVD player.
Please don't.
And just record clips. If you're going to use clips,
yeah.
And not just because it's inconvenient, it's unethical.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't cost you more than like $1 or $1.50 a clip to use it through somebody like Wing Clips or another thing. But get the clips, use them appropriately, and do the right thing, because it's too cheap to not do it right, and we have to, for a long time we've kind of in a lot of circles looked at this. Well, it's not a big a deal. I'm not selling it. I'm not doing anything like that. So, but just do it right, man. It's worth it. The message it sends, not only to your kids, but to other visitors that might be in, that you've gone through the avenues of doing this the right way. I think it's really, really important. So take the effort to get those clips in the right way. And yeah, I was going somewhere else, but I'll let you pick up right there. Completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay. My train went out the door too. I like what Bryce is saying here too. He says, I love the idea of a day of spiritual gifts. If you want to get really spicy, it would be good to have a conversation about traditions versus scripture. Hey, I guess we're really talking about Bruno here, right? Because, if it's not so that's my dad's probably fell out of his chair laughing because we just had a conversation about that. If it's tradition, then it is scriptural. Something like that. He'll probably type in here and correct me because we made that joke. But that's really good.
And I like that. I like that bringing in that. Here we do talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
That there might be some places where you can't, or you feel like you can't say something, but like right here, we're going to start creating this environment that says we talk about anything. We talk about everything. And I love you have to provide people, and this is where I was going earlier. Is the second thing I was going to say is you have to teach kids. We need to teach our adults how to actually do some self-exploration.
Yeah.
Because we've not been trained very well in understanding who we are, and who we need to be. And it's hard to do, and it's hard to do effectively. The other thing is I like what Bryce said earlier about bringing in some multi-generational, using this as a tool to get multi-generations involved in camp when you talk about being one, and that idea of unity, of really, we already have those, right? I mean, we have counseling staff, we have kitchen staff, we have all kinds of people that are involved, but actually getting those people involved in camp to paint that picture of what it is like to live under that one roof. And
that's awesome. I forgot I had this quote that I had here under Bruno. This is actually from my wife. We sat through and she was like, oh, put this in your notes. So there's the scene right after Maribel finds Bruno and they do the whole in the walls thing. And he's like, you've got to embrace your sister, so they get out there and she's about to go into her sister's room and she starts complaining about her sister, right? And Bruno looks at her and he says these words. Okay, so here's your clip for your class. He says, it's not up to her to change the fate of the family, but it's up to you. And I went, whoa, like that's huge.
Yeah.
So
it is.
You could use that like on a Wednesday night Bible class if you're talking about restoring relationships or friendships, or if you have a problem with somebody else that you need to go and talk to them about. You could look at how Paul says, if at all possible on you to live at peace with everybody, that it's on you to go do this. It's not on her for this problem. It's not about her forgiving you or saying sorry. It's about you being humble and going and apologizing. It's about you
Right.
saying sorry. It's about you apologizing. It's about, and it sounds really selfish, but in this sense, like it's the good amount. It's the right concept. It's the right idea. And so I forgot about that quote. I wanted to bring that up because I saw Bruno kind of differently, which is why I love the brain trust.
Right.
So when I saw Bruno, I said, hey, Bruno has this problem, and he runs from the family instead of being embraced. So Bruno's having this struggle, and instead of seeking refuge from the church and learning, how to go through this, he runs. He runs and he hides in the walls. So I took it as like the Jonah, almost like a Jonah story, as he runs away from God in this sense. I also thought like, oh, hey, the family didn't understand Bruno, so he's made out to be this monster instead of understanding him and helping him through this problem. So maybe when others in the church are different from us, we don't try to understand where they're coming from or where they're at in their lives. We just kind of push them away because it's messy and because it's hard. He also says, my gift wasn't helping the family, but I love my family. And I love that idea, still going back to what Paul talks about, hey, we can't all be hands and we all can't be eyes and we all can't be ears, kind of mentality.
But that's still a misunderstanding on his part.
Yeah, it is.
Because his gift was helping the family.
It was.
Even though they weren't willing to embrace what he had to say.
That's right.
It was there for their good. But we have that perception sometimes.
I have that perception sometimes. Right, like,
and I would
constantly
throw in,
put myself in check.
Like I would throw in a lesson, right, that says, after that introspection and self-examination, who am I? What are my gifts? I think there's a message here that we can't miss. That number one, it's never too late to do the right thing.
That's right.
So I think in my mind, the topic of the talk I would give would say it's never too late, but why wait? Like you go through this whole movie, and at the end of the movie, they're finally living life as a family the way they should have been all along. And so it's never too late. God will always offer you restoration. You can always come back and do the right thing, but how much better is life when we just make the decision now? And it's easier to do it now than to try to delay what's doing hard. It doesn't get easier down the road. And so I have to go back and watch it again because there's more.
There's more. I would end the week, if it was me, I would end the week focusing on that last song of the movie as well. Because you have this beautiful imagery of the family coming together and rebuilding, and they keep saying it's not perfect, but neither are we.
That's right.
Only Jesus is perfect, and they talk about, but I like the new foundation. She uses the word foundation, right? Josh is like, whoa, man, don't blow out my ears. But she uses the word foundation, and like, you can't help but just be like, oh, it's because Jesus is our foundation. I love the new foundation as well, right? Like, our new foundation is Jesus in Christ. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about Jesus. We're not perfect, but Christ is. I also feel like in the Two Caterpillars song, there's something there, and I need to rewatch that part of the movie again. It's the song where the grandma is talking about what happened between her and her husband, and it's in Spanish, but it's called Two Caterpillars, which is why they have to follow the butterfly because it's now bloomed and it's better now. And it talks about her hurt and her pain. But I feel like there's more there. And so that's something that I'm interested in rewatching and even developing something through there. But that last song would be how I'd want to end the week on.
Yeah. And because it's not about being perfect. It's about learning to continue to grow.
That's right. That's right.
And continue to grow together.
And the house that they build continues to grow because as new generations, grow, there's more doors, more rooms get added.
You know what's crazy is
To
we
the
went through this
house.
whole episode and we barely even mentioned the main character, who, by the way, even though she doesn't have an official gift,
Right?
um, has this gift of helping other people find their gifts, which, by
That's
the
right.
way, is a gift.
It's a gift.
You
Huge
know,
gift.
it's a huge gift. It may not be miraculous, it may not be flashy,
Because
but
you
it
don't
is
ever
so
see
important. And
you never see the abuela's gift.
which was,
Nothing.
I don't gonna say
She
she
doesn't
didn't
have
have
one
one.
either.
I mean, her gift was the matriarch, and
Yeah,
having
her
this
gift was a
family
matriarch.
of
So
gifted people.
Marabella's is kind of taking that mantle of leadership and being trained.
I had to ask this, making sure I didn't miss something at the end. I was like, she didn't actually.
Now I
have
wanted
a
to put
gift.
you on the spot
Oh,
like
yeah.
you put me on the spot. So I just want you to feel the
Turnabout's fair
sweaty.
play, right? Yeah,
Clip that for the Instagram.
I will. Man, hey, just before you sign us off, because we're kind of running up on time here.
We are. Man, what a good
We're going to
show.
continue to develop this. Hope you guys have enjoyed kind of a look at how we go about planning some of these activities and the way we use our own experiences to create something that's hopefully valuable to our kids. And if this piques your interest and you kind of want to see what the final work looks like, shoot us an email, behindthebeards@gmail.com. It's in our show notes, or you can send us a Facebook message, Instagram. We're on all those platforms. You can try to get us on Twitter, but man, I'm not good at Twitter.
Neither am I.
But
Twitter's dead.
so let us know. Send us an email and let us know you want a copy of that stuff, and we'll do our best to get it to you. And we'd love to hear your input on kind of what you thought as well. So
Yes,
looking
we
forward to getting
always
some
love
feedback.
input or game ideas or anything like that you have on there. We want to thank you guys for being here today. We also remind you of Galatians 6:9. Don't grow weary in doing good. What we're doing here today is good, and it's even fun. Even if you're not going to play in a church camp or do something, this would be a great process that you could even do for a small group as well. Is, hey, we're going to watch this movie, and then we're going to talk about the spiritual implications that we could gather from this movie. And so that's one of those good things. Don't grow weary in growing and doing good things. This world is messy. This life is messy. So allow Christ to use you to do something good in His name. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh, and we will see you next week on Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
That's good stuff, man.
That was fun. It's been a long time since I've gotten to do that. I saw someone point out in the first and last song is a difference in the lyrics. How she says, "This is my family, a perfect constellation, so many stars, and everyone gets to shine." And then at the end, she's, "Look at this family, a glowing constellation, so full of stars, and everybody wants to shine." Ooh, man. See, this is why Bryce is an official member of the Brain Trust.
That's right.
That's why, and always will be.
No, it's good, man. I felt like we could have talked for another hour.
I could
Not
have.
had enough time.
I could have. This could have been a super long episode.
I don't know if people listen to super long episodes.
I don't think so.
I love long episodes. Like when I have a podcast and like that, and I see that it's like an hour and 15 or an hour and 20, I'm like, yes, I can sit in this one for a little while,
Right?
because I don't like bouncing from topic to topic. That's good stuff, man. What a good movie. We watched it. We watched it in Williams, Arizona, in the hotel when we were on our
Nice.
Christmas vacation, and the kids are like, I don't know. And then like we started watching it, and Jody fell asleep. And so the next day she's like, "Hey, can we finish Encanto?" I'm like, yeah, sure we can. I'll watch it again.
Your kids were like, I don't know. I can't believe that. That's crazy.
Well, it was, it's not like they're 19 and 17 years old. They still like the movies when we watch
This
them.
is the post show, Bryce. This is
Yeah.
where all the cool people hang out after the show.
P.S. You're all still alive. Yeah. Yeah. Got the pre-show and the post-show.
That's right.
Only the privileged realize there's a post-show.
That's right.
Um,
There's a post show that's like super intense.
yeah, right. This is where Sam usually appears, though.
This is usually where Sam appears, but he's in the back playing with Mom.
He sounds like he's busy and having a good time.
Always.
Now, animated movies is not something that they would like go to first, but they always enjoy it. And I take that back. I think Dylan actually recommended this movie. I also think he watched it on his own on the way up in the car. So
I bet that's the thing is like I'm always like, oh, we could watch Encanto. That's fun. We enjoy that. We listen to the soundtrack in the car.
yeah,
So I actually almost know like a lot of the words to most of the songs already. So that's cool, right? I am a child of a toddler though, so I guess I'm allowed.
that sometimes it doesn't have to change. Some people say it changes when your kids get older, but and like I said before, my kids wouldn't always choose some of those things, but they've never been averse to going.
Yeah.
Even like Jungle Cruise, and those kind of what seems to be more for kids. I think as they've gotten older, they've realized they might be initially made for kids, but there is so much humor that connects at every level of life that they're really enjoyable. And so now they understood that when their mom and I were laughing at those movies, we weren't laughing at the same thing they were laughing at when they were kids.
Right. Yeah.
And they're now old enough to get the inside jokes and the grown up jokes that are kind of mixed in with.
Well, I think that's what Disney and Pixar does really well. Is they do a really good job at reaching a variety. I mean, it's not like going and seeing a My Little Pony movie. That is very much for little kids.
Yeah. Well, Aladdin was really the first one, right?
I follow one of the I follow one of the creators for Phineas and Ferb, and he said, "Man, we broke every rule there is to break about storytelling, but we succeeded, and we tried to reach that larger audience."
Who are you talking about?
What's up, Sam? What's up, Sam?
I don't
How you do?
know.
You don't know? What are you playing back there? Are you playing with your new toy?
What's my new toy, Daddy? I got a Kindle.
You got a Kindle?
My own really good Kindle.
Nice. Can you watch Paw Patrol on it?
Yeah, but this a different Paw Patrol.
A different one. How about, are you playing with any of your excavators?
Yeah.
I know you like those tractors, don't you?
Yeah, but they're not found enough trackers. It's just one tracker.
Just one. Were you back there with your mommy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, having a good time. Yeah, Bryce, we're gonna plan out a full camp and a retreat.
Yeah.
Because if Aaron doesn't use it, I'm going to. Is Sam gonna use it?
Yeah.
Are you gonna go to camp?
Yeah.
You want to teach?
Hey, am I going to camp? I'm not going to camp.
You're not going to camp. We like Soul Quest, don't we?
I go to school quest. I go to school quest.
I know. Remember, I stayed with you. You remember? Yeah.
I remember.
I remember.
I remember.
Right.
Oh, the post-show live.
I think it would be. I like that idea with Bryce, is we could formulate and actually create like a Word document,
Hi.
like church camp, and then give it away or whatever. Like here's a 4-day camp. Here's a 5-day camp.
Yeah.
Depends on the workload. Yes, Bryce, you will be totally included.
Totally in the mix. I know.
Yeah, please. So, all right. Thank you guys for being in the post show.